You are watching Father Fish. Now please enjoy the video.
I hear a pigeon.
You
Yeah,
are
I hear a
watching.
little bit of something.
Please enjoy the video.
We got music. Yes.
You are
A
watching.
little bit of something.
Enjoy the video.
We got music.
Somebody's got something on.
We got music.
Somebody's got something on. I don't know where that's coming from. Where's that coming from? Somebody has the mic open somewhere. I don't know where that's coming from. 1, 2, 3, 4. Where's that coming from? It's coming from Jackie. Jackie, you need to turn your YouTube volume up. Like that. There we go. Jackie, you need to turn. That's it. Now say something. Jackie, are you say something? Can you hear me? Oh, this is a problem. She can't hear me. And when
Hey,
she's
Jackie,
on,
can you hear us?
when
Can you
she's
hear me,
on,
Father
we get
Fish?
feedback. I can hear you.
Okay.
She was. I don't even know how to deal with this. She should be on. Jackie, you're on both YouTube and StreamYard. Can you hear me? She can't hear me.
Oh, goodness. Jackie, if you can hear us, nod your head.
And StreamYard.
Oh.
Can you hear me?
There you are.
I can hear you now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, but you're echoing.
I am?
You are on both YouTube and
Oh,
StreamYard.
goodness. Jackie, if you can hear us, nod your head.
Turn the volume on StreamYard
How's
and
that?
turn it off on YouTube, and then we should be okay.
Is that better?
That's it.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay.
got it.
We're good. All
It
right.
takes us a while too, Jackie. Don't feel bad. We all do it.
It was
Yeah,
open.
we've all been through this. It's just been
Yes. And we do it.
I even forgot that I opened it. It was like a hidden tab in there. And I was like,
oh right.
Right.
I was trying to figure out if it was me. Let me play it. Well, let's see. Why don't we just get into it? We don't need to play any more music. Mary, who else here?
Oh my goodness, we have Roman Sherrock, we have James Green, we have Nala Fox, your baby granddaughter, ABC,
Nala.
DPK, Hippie John the Fisherman, and Cassie B. Hey girl.
Hey, Cass, how are you?
And Scott and Wendy Stankovich, our favorites.
Right.
Love you guys.
Yeah. Let's see. Hold on. If I move this over.
And we have Jackie and Father Fish, and I'm honored to be here. This is exciting.
Jackie Anderson. Jackie, why don't you explain to us who you are
Yes.
and what you're all about, please.
Sure. I'm Jackie. I do the education materials coordination for Project Piaba. So I do a lot of like the talking to people and the presentations and the fish conventions and all of the places where we interface with the public. I do a lot of that and sort of like, so I have a closet full of stuff that
We love it.
Project Piaba, but what we do as a corporation is we're all volunteer run, and we work with the wild aquarium fishery of the Rio Negro region to help sort of like it began as studying the fishery scientifically, and it has sort of morphed into helping promote it and help it be competitive in a global market where the same species of fish are coming from literally anywhere in the world, but only the ones that are wild caught from the Rio Negro have the environmental benefit of providing sustainable livelihoods to the people who are fishing for them. So we're sort of helping that to compete.
I was watching a video yesterday.
So awesome to see you.
I was watching a video yesterday of a Spanish gentleman who is fishing the Rio Negro with locals who are catching L series, many different kinds of
Oh,
L
yeah.
series. Like they're really fascinating. And they were diving in 20, 30 feet of water to catch. Is that something that Piaba is involved in, or are you doing more shallow water stuff?
So a lot of the villages that we work with they're fishing in the flooded forest. So they're fishing for like, and the L series things have started to come out, recently, relatively recently in the fish trade. But what we work with more is with like cardinal tetras, rummy nose tetras, and about 250 total species of fish that come from that region, but whose populations are sort of dependent on a boom and bust that's related to water level changes. So they're the fish that breed up in the flooded forest, and then when the water levels recede, they sort of get trapped up in there. And if they don't make their way back into the rivers, they either dry up in a puddle or are easily caught by people who are fishing for the aquarium fish trade. And those are the fish that sort of make their way into that fishery. All the catfish stuff is relatively new in the world of aquarium fishing.
Right, it is. That's true.
The flooded forest fisheries have existed since Herbert Axelrod in the 1950s, and they haven't changed in terms of technology or in the way that the fish are harvested. They're just the same, 5 generations later of families who are still fishing the way that they fished when the fishery started. But one of the things that has changed a lot since the 1950s is our understanding of fish biology. So we've been doing a lot of work with best handling practices and just small minor changes that they can make to the way that they do the fishing and the transport of the fish and everything that happens after the fish are captured to sort of make them a healthier product and a more competitive fish, because it's hard to compete with the farm raised fish that are coming from Southeast Asia, because they've lived on a fish farm their whole life, and they're uniquely suited to aquarium life as opposed to a fish that was captured out of
well caught.
Yeah, and a pH of 3.9, and then made its way downriver in a tub. By the time they get past all of those obstacles, they've seen a lot of stuff in their life. So it's kind of
right.
We do a lot of work with best handling to help them be more healthy and more competitive.
Now we have Dr. Anthony on Friday. He
Friday.
has an operation
Yes.
in Peru. You're in Brazil.
Yes.
Very different
Okay.
environments.
Yes.
In Peru, they really don't have the flooded forests, I think, do they?
I think that they do, but what he works with more is with fish that are more easily overfished. So fish that don't live in the flooded forest. He's like with angelfish and other species like that are more susceptible to overfishing. And so what he does is more like an aquaculture based organization, as far as my understanding of his.
Yeah, that's right. He's teaching people how to build ponds.
Yes. Yeah, that's not what we do.
Yeah, that's a completely which you can't do in a flooded forest.
Right. Yeah. And also it seemed sort of inappropriate to us to be like, the way that your granddaddy taught you is wrong, So and the way that the fisheries work too are completely different. Like cardinal tetras and rummy nose tetras have a completely different life cycle, and the way that how many they have is very. And some of those angelfish that are a lot more susceptible to overfishing.
Well, right, and they're working primarily with cichlids.
Yeah.
You're working primarily with tetras and barbs and pencilfish and so forth.
Yeah, yeah, pencilfish, hatchetfish, all the little. So the name Piaba is sort of a generic term for like little minnows, or like the little fishes that people don't eat. And it's crazy too, because like you'd be blown away if you see in the villages people eating like geophagus and fish that if you were to buy it here, put it in your
mouth. That's what was interesting about the video I watched yesterday. They whipped up a pot of pleco soup.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I have a lot of photos, like and just being in the there's a fish market in Manaus that is where, like, if you're a fish nerd and you ever find yourself in Brazil, you got to check it out, because it's a market. Like, people go there to buy their food fish, but you'll see plecos that you've never seen before in your life.
And they're eating them.
Just
right.
Not ready to be somebody's dinner,
Worth thousands of dollars to the right person.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yep.
It's like here in the States, we're making, what is it, garfish balls or gar balls? Fried gar balls. The same way.
I'm working
pleco balls.
I'm working on putting together a recipe for all of these damn common plecos we've got here in Florida.
Yes.
Because we need to be eating those things.
Yeah.
It is a mess. The plecos are a mess in Florida.
Yep, I need them.
Let me segue a little bit into the other issue that I want to get back to Piaba and talk more about that, but I also want to get caught up on the Lacey Act amendments, because that's something that has directly affected all of us, or potentially will directly affect all of us. There was a mistake made last week that Dr. Anthony fessed up to on our live stream.
But he fessed up. I can't blame him. He got excited. Excited. I would too.
I know.
He got so excited too.
We love you, Dr. Anthony.
It could have easily been me.
Right.
But the reality is it's still out there now. It's on the back burner. I talked to Josh at PJAC Friday when all of this was hitting the fan. And because of things that are going on internationally right now, it's on the back burner and may not even come up. He said there's they're dealing with that. They're dealing with the elections coming up this fall. So there's a good chance it's just going to sit there and not be brought up until after the elections, which if things work out, it won't be brought up at all, but we'll see about that.
Yeah. I'm just afraid of, like, forgetting about it and then having it, like, all of a sudden be like, oh, here it is.
Well, Jack said they were going to, they're keeping a keen eye peeled.
Yeah.
To ensure if this thing does come up, that we'll know about it. And we all need to be alert to that.
Right.
I've had some people, not many, but some, who have poo-pooed this as so much about nothing, that it's really not a big deal, that we've dealt with these issues before, that it's not going to be anywhere near as dramatic and horrible as Father Fitch is saying it is.
No, it could be.
All I can say to those people is, you really need to get informed because
Yeah.
they're really not informed. They have the mistaken impression that this is all about expanding the blacklist,
Mm-hmm.
putting more problem fish or animals on it. And it's not about that at all. Would you care to explain your understanding?
Yeah, sure. So first off, I don't think those people could be any more wrong. I think it's a really big deal from a whole lot of standpoints, from an environmental standpoint, from a animal keeper standpoint, and from a business standpoint. So
Yeah.
basically, what it does is there's several pages of amendments to the Lacey Act, which will change the way that it operates. So, like right now, what it's designed to do and what it has done for since 1900, it with different amendments along the way that have sort of changed the way that it operates. But what it's designed to do is protect native habitat and native wildlife from invasive species, and also to protect vulnerable populations of animals from overharvest.
Yeah.
So, and it's worked, it's existed since 1900. And the amendments that are proposed in the new bill that passed the House that we're all worried about and we've been talking about since January now, will change the way that it operates. So there's been a list of species that cannot be imported into the United States based on, because they might become invasive or they might become problematic should they escape. They could harm native wildlife and native habitats. So that's what is functionally a blacklist, so a list of things you can't import. What this will change is it'll change that from a blacklist, so a list of things you can't import, to a whitelist, or a list of things you can import, which in order to make that list, it's going to have to go through a review process that hasn't yet been outlined, so nobody knows who's going to make that list or how, but it's for sure going to be a much smaller list. So it'll be a list of animals that are allowed to come in because they're proven non-invasive. And perhaps one of the biggest threats to this is that it's federal legislation. So if it's potentially invasive in Florida, it'll be, it won't make that cut. And so the list of animals that will be able to be imported into the United States is going to be quite small compared to what it is now. And if it's potentially invasive in any of the states or territories, you won't be able to import it. So, and I don't even, if you went by that definition, I don't even know if guppies would be on the list because they could live in a drainage ditch.
Guppies can survive in Puerto Rico.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
And the Virgin Islands.
Yeah,
Right.
and any drainage ditch in Florida. And
Yeah.
so I feel
Right.
like that's potentially very scary for people who, and there's also an interstate travel component to this too.
Mhm.
So any of those species that are on that list, like nobody's going to bang down your door and take your fish tank away from you. But if you travel across state lines with anything that's not on that white list after it gets made, you could be committing a federal felony. And
Yeah.
that would be very bad for us as pet keepers, right? Because what are you going to do if you move from Massachusetts to Rhode Island? Or what are you going to do if you give a fish to a friend that lives in a different state? It'll be like, oops, I'm a felon.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I think it would lead to a lot of people who are afraid of that law, maybe dumping their pets or getting rid of things or being irresponsible in that manner. But also it'll lead a lot of people to say, oh, that's stupid, and not respect the laws. And I've heard a lot of that kind of stuff too, where people are like, "Oh, I'm still
Yeah,
going to."
exactly.
And
Right.
it's like, how about we prevent this law from being passed in the first place because it's so.
There you go.
And the biggest thing too, so because of that interstate travel component to the amendments to the act, that would have a huge impact on the pet industry, which is an $18 to $20 billion industry. So it'll be a whole lot of people's businesses. Anybody who sells fish or fish equipment, if the aquarium industry tanks, no pun intended, because of this, it could really have an effect on not just people who sell the fish like the pet stores, but people who sell all of the components, all the filtration, all of the
Right.
chemicals, the fish food, the plastic castles, the sand, everything. And so that's a lot of American businesses. But the biggest thing, and the thing that Project Piaba has been terrified about with this, is that what we do is we have been studying and working with the aquarium fish industry of the Rio Negro for decades, so since the early 1990s. And what we do is we try to work with that fishery and help it remain competitive in a global environment. And Brazil, as of May of 2020, changed from, they had a whitelist. So there was a list of species that were allowed to be exported from Brazil. Now there's a blacklist. There's a list of species that cannot be exported from Brazil. And so there's a whole lot more fish that are now, going to be able to be exported real soon once they get over COVID and are able to like export fish more efficiently and log specimens with their environmental agencies and stuff. But once that happens, it'll really sort of open up a lot of opportunity for the aquarium fish industry, but not if one of their top 4 importers all of a sudden can't import their fish. And the aquarium fish industry of the Rio Negro is a strong and powerful driver of conservation because it provides an environmentally linked source of income. So it's a source of income that depends on having a clean, healthy forest and river ecosystem, and it cannot exist alongside things that destroy the environment, such as slash and burn farming, timber harvest, cattle ranching, gold mining. All those things that are rampant in other parts of the Amazon really don't exist in the Rio Negro region because the aquarium fish fishery is that source of income and protects the environment because it keeps people from doing those things because they know that they've got a renewable source of income that's going to come back year after year when those fish invade the flooded forest and lay their eggs and have a gazillion babies and the water levels go down, and then all those fish are just available to be easily collected and brought into the aquarium fish trade. That's a predictable and reliable source of income that comes every year, and all they have to do is protect it in the off season. And so that really drives the conservation in the region. But the United States is one of the top 4 importers of aquarium fish from the state of Arizona. And if that disappears, it could be the nail in the coffin. And so that's something that we've been sort of panicking about, or trying not to panic, but being reasonably worried about, because it's sort of like the amendments to the Lacey Act are disguised as environmental legislation. It's, it makes you think, oh yeah, let's protect the environment. That's great. But here it's got this whole other snowball effect somewhere else that, the Amazon is a legacy that we owe to our future generations. And, allowing it to be cut down because of some stupid law in the United States is just ridiculous.
Yeah, the reality is that's really what we're talking about. The fact is, if this passes, there will be absolute devastation across the globe in the most pristine and
biologically valuable,
unprotected environments, delicate environments that exist. They will every one be destroyed. Because they will no longer have the economic value they currently have.
Yes.
That economic value will become mining and logging and farming and monoculture.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah. Right
and
now.
That'll destroy every one of those environments utterly, absolutely, and permanently.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Right now, it's economic incentive for environmental protection, and if you remove the economic incentive, you're still not removing people from the ecosystem, right? There's a lot of people live in the Amazon, and they need a way to support themselves and to feed their families, and environmentalism often takes a sort of privileged approach to the world of being like, don't cut down the rainforest, save the rainforest, but you can't remove the people who live there, who need some way to support themselves. So it's
delicate.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't divorce the people from the environment there. They have to have a way to live.
And from economic necessity.
Yeah, exactly.
That's really the key. I mean, if we want to save the rainforest, we need to learn how to keep all of the animals alive in our homes that live there, because that is what's going to protect
That's
them. That seems
that's right.
counterintuitive to some people.
Yeah.
But
Say,
that's
well,
what it's going
how
to take
can
to save them.
yeah,
Yeah, I can tell you, a million years ago, I used to work at PetSmart, and I every person that I talked to that came in, because there was a brief period of overlap where I worked, where I worked at PetSmart and where I also volunteered with Project Piaba, and everybody that would come in to buy Cardinal Tetras, I like ran this informal poll. I'd be like, hey, so you feel like it's more environmentally friendly to buy farm raised cardinal tetras or wild caught cardinal tetras, and every single person said,
said
"Oh, I
farm.
want
Yeah,
the farm raised ones
Yeah.
because I care about the environment." And it's like, well, wait a minute, this is sort of a counterintuitive thing.
right.
I'm telling you right now that the wild caught ones actually promote the conservation of the environment where the fish come from, and
Right.
I think part of the problem is that when people think about fisheries, the term fishery, they're thinking about like, a lot of food fish that have been absolutely, massacred out of the ocean.
Overfished, right? Yeah,
Cod and ground fish and all these things that have been overdone. And even when you think about it in the aquarium trade, a lot of people think about like cyanide fishing and all these environmental
Oh yeah.
things. And this is a very different thing. This is literally people going into the flooded forest with canoes and scooping fish
Yeah.
with either a net, a trap, or a board. Scooping
Right.
them and basically saving them from certain death as their puddles dry out, and then those are the fish that end up in the aquarium trade. And it's sort of a everybody wins scenario, unless people who are buying,
including the fish, because
yeah,
they get to live a lot longer than they would otherwise.
yeah,
Why, yes. I mean, it's kind of like looking at, say, farms that do free range chickens or something. If it's like, the fish are in the wild, they're where they're happy, they're where they're the most comfortable, they spawn and everything. But you put them in something artificial and it starts changing things. But if you leave them where they're at in the wild caught, there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, it's just where the fish actually go to afterwards.
Yeah.
Are they going to an aquarium that the person's going to take care of them correctly? That's where the problem comes in. But the problem's not with the people catching them or whatever and harvesting them for our aquarium trade. It comes in where the actual consumer buys them and needs to make the best aquarium for them. Does that make sense? Okay.
yeah.
Two things I'm thinking about. One I find really interesting, talking with Dr. Anthony. The ponds,
Yes.
the ponds that they're building do not involve buying 100-pound bags of fish food and feeding the
Right.
fish every day. Those ponds
Right.
are natural ponds with a food web built in. So the very
Right.
thing we've been teaching here to create a food web in your aquarium is how
What's
the fish
happening?
are being raised, at least in that
Right.
project.
Yeah.
The other issue that's significant, I think, back to the Lacey Act, there are 20,000 species of animals currently in the animal trade in this country. That means there are 20,000 different species of animals living in people's homes here in this country today. With this act, that number will be reduced to
Oh
who knows
gosh.
what, but it's not going to be more than the inspectors can learn to identify.
Right.
Which means that a lot of species will not be included because they will not be able to be easily identified. I give you corals.
There you go.
Corals are a perfect example of this. Now, the
Yes.
reality is there are no corals left alive in the world that are not being propagated privately. The industry has developed to the point where we can and do propagate effectively in substantial numbers every single species of coral in the world, with the possible exception of some of the very cold deep sea corals, of which there aren't
Yeah.
many to begin with. So the reality, however, is if Lacey passes, all coral will be banned. No
Yeah.
coral, because there won't be any way for the inspectors to distinguish the species.
Yeah. And that's
Which
so
means,
to that
which
point.
means then that all of the coral reefs around the world within a matter of a few years will be completely destroyed. They will be decimated. Part of the reason for that is that wherever there are white zones where the temperature has fluctuated and the corals have died, and then the temperature has gone back to what it was, coral breeders are going to those places and reestablishing populations of corals in those areas. That will come to an absolute end.
Yeah.
So just one more area of absolute devastation. This
Yeah.
if you could think of something that would destroy more delicate, more endangered species, you would not be able to find anything that would be nearly as effective as a white list in a major industrial country.
Yeah.
Right.
Well said. Well said. And there's also
Yes.
there's a minimum quantity component to the amendments to the
Isn't
Lacey
that
Act.
interesting?
Yes.
Mhm.
That's
So-
bizarre.
Go figure.
Just bizarre. Explain that.
You're
Yep.
kidding.
No. So basically, if an animal hasn't, so even if it's not, even if it's not injurious or potentially invasive, it won't be allowed to be imported if it hasn't been imported in large enough quantities in the past. And so there's a lot of species that exist only in the aquarium trade
Right.
because of environmental impacts or invasive species in their native lands. I'm looking at African cichlids right now. There are so many species that just don't exist in the wild anymore because of whatever reason.
Yeah.
There's a laundry list. But those species, if they haven't been imported in large enough quantities, won't make that list and won't be able to be transported across state lines or imported. And a lot of that is the brood stock for species survival programs. And some of those are officially run by zoos and aquariums, and there will presumably be some sort of permitting process that allows that to continue. But any of the ones that are done by hobbyists, it's not going to fly. Like think of all the
Right.
care species and all of the fish that are kept alive in aquariums as like an environmental bank, as like a backup, as a savings
Yeah.
bank for species.
I give you the axolotl,
Yeah.
which does not exist in the
Good one.
wild, only exists in personal private collections.
Yeah.
It doesn't even really exist significantly in zoos and laboratories. It is being maintained by the millions by private collectors. It
Right.
absolutely will not be on that white list. It will
Oh my
be
goodness.
literally exterminated.
Gone. I think
No
about
good
somebody
content.
like Rusty Wessel here in Kentucky who with cichlids. I can't get into all the specifics of the species he keeps, but he has done so much work.
Central Americans, yeah.
Yep, Central American cichlids. And I hope one day I get to meet him since I'm here in Kentucky. But I think about people like him that have done so much work, their life work, to, keeping certain species alive and well and in the hobby that would be gone. They'd be gone.
Yeah.
And I know my favorite video I ever watched of him was him and Chris Biggs. Chris Biggs went and visited his facility, and it was just absolutely incredible. So, sorry, that's just where my brain went.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah,
Imagine calling somebody like that a felon because of their contributions.
Right.
exactly.
Exactly, Jackie. You said it.
Yeah,
That
yeah.
makes me sick.
Yeah.
Well, I have a solution for all this.
Okay,
If
give it to us,
if
Bob
it
Fish.
passes, I'm gonna start teaching people how to build arcs. We're gonna all
Okay.
become
I'm gonna know
Noah.
it. Right.
How
I'm
about
in line. I'm
getting
ready to
back?
build my Noah's Ark.
Yeah. Yep.
But isn't that the reality? I mean, that's
It
what we would
is.
have to do. We
Yeah.
would have to, and
We're laughing,
you know,
but it's not
for
funny.
much
Yeah.
the same reason, right? Right.
Yeah. And the aquarium fish trade in the Rio Negro, like, you know, we've been looking at it since the 1990s, and we had a guy a guy from a company called Carbon Co. come down and do a rapid assessment of how much carbon is sequestered in the rainforest that's protected by the fishery, because it's about 46,000 square miles of rainforest.
Oh wow.
That's part of, you know, that's protected by the municipalities that are doing the fishing. And what they came up with was about 7.6 billion metric tons of carbon. So even if you don't care about the fish or the river or the ecosystem, global climate change is something that's going to impact future generations no matter what. And that's a whole lot of carbon to be, you know, to be sequestered in the rainforest versus, you know, burn it down and release that carbon into the atmosphere. And, you know, so it's a huge environmental, you know, it's a ticking time bomb if the fishery stops. It's sort of is like the, you know, the before photo for like Mad Max, you know.
Well, you know, the other thing to think about here is the Lacey Act. The Lacey Act governs the importation of literally all living things, including plants.
Mhm.
Plants come under the Lacey Act.
Right.
The law as it's written impacts not just tropical fish, it also impacts all reptiles,
Yeah.
all amphibians like frogs,
Mhm.
it impacts all birds, it impacts all insects,
Insects. Yes.
it impacts the biological material that is used in laboratories
Right.
around the world. So, as well as food, all of the food that is imported. Now, you say, well, the law doesn't specify that. It's true, it
No, but
does,
that's where it goes.
but the enforcement agency, the Department of the Interior, does enforce that, and any law that's passed relative to that is one they can bureaucratically assume
Mhm.
impacts every other aspect of their interested environment of the things they're required to assess the value of or impact of. That
Yeah.
includes all food that's imported. It includes virtually all plant material of all types. It includes all microscopic bacteria. It includes literally every living thing on Earth may be put on a white list. Now you say, well, okay, but they'll allow this and that. Sure, they will. It takes 5 years to get one single item on a white list
Yeah.
because you have to go through an enormous bureaucratic process to get there. The law specifies that nothing may be added to this list for 3 years. Nothing. Things may be taken off of it, like, for example, two of the things that will be on it for sure are the common plecostomus and the
Right.
goldfish,
And the
because
goldfish.
those are traded in vast numbers. So two of the most invasive species in on our planet, in our nation today, will be in prized positions
Yeah.
on the white list and welcome in,
Yeah.
which means that this law has nothing to do with invasive species
Yes.
or controlling our environment or anything like that.
Yeah.
It simply is not written that way. It is to be generous, obtuse, asinine, immature, irresponsible, and fundamentally flawed.
Absolutely.
Yep.
And Rubio should have better sense than to support it, but apparently he's too much of a child to even be willing to listen.
Because
Yeah.
they're not even
He won't
listening, like you
listen.
said.
He will not
They're
listen.
not listening. They have no idea.
He thinks this is going to catapult him into
Yeah.
the presidency. What it's going to catapult him into is being a pariah,
Yeah.
because he will be a pariah.
Yeah, I hope so. And even if you didn't care about fish or the environment or pets
Right.
or anything wet, it's American businesses too. Like think of every fish store. Think of every truck driver that transports fish for like Seagrass Farms. You know, think of think of how big of a business that is, and how many people's livelihoods here it is.
Depends on
It's a
it,
big
right.
deal. It's not nothing, you know. And imagine if all of a sudden that portion of your business just went away. You know, that's American jobs. So like even if you didn't care about the environment or people's pets or people's fish or, you know, frogs or any of it, you know, it still is it's still wicked bad.
Mm-hmm. We had a few more people come in. You want me to say hello to them, Father Fish?
Yeah, please, by all means.
Okay. We had let me get back here. We had Mr. Aquatic News, John S. Vlog. See, I got you, DPK, I believe. Master Black. Hold on, melted butter. Kenneth D. Hey, my friend. Boss Queen 71.
There she is.
And ABC. I'm not sure if I got you yet, but if I didn't, hello again. And Scott, well, I got you, Scott. Hello, Scott. JBVMPSMTR. How are you doing tonight? Bryn, Crypt Keeper. Let's see here. I said Kenneth. Drift and Driftwood. Hello. And there was another one. Wait a minute. Did I say Carter? I think I did. Alucard, 198 or 1981T. And I think that's everybody. Melted butter. If I missed you, please let me know. I've been listening to the conversation, so I hope I got everyone. Hello and welcome. Thank you for being here.
Tori Babson.
Yes.
Yeah, she says passing those restrictions will only motivate people to import illegally and completely take away the economic stability that keeps the rainforests safe by supporting those families.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, we're going to give Tori a wrench. Turn you blue, Tori.
And Frankie, I didn't say hi to you either. I think Frankie B Scale Modeling came in as well. Like I said, the conversation was good, so I was trying not to interrupt. And you got Tori. So, all right, we got it. I think we got everybody. If we didn't, just let me know. Jackie, really, really enjoying your conversation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Yeah, it's something that
okay, Grin.
Passionate about.
Hey, that's what we love. I mean, see, I kind of represent just the average person, you know, just the person who wants to keep an aquarium. I'm just a hobbyist. I'm not into the breeding, but I want to be. But like, I care so much about it. I have, you know, I've come into Father Fish's community. Like, the more I learn, the more I want to know. And then I get into these situations, you know, what's going on in the world. Mm-hmm. And it's scary because, like, over the past year, I've been studying and researching and learning about fish when I just started off with a betta and a fish, you know, in a little aquarium. Now I'm wanting to help take care of Kara's fish. I'm wanting to do different things. And you know what? I might not get a chance to do it if this happens. And that just saddens me.
Yeah, fish
Jackie, Scott has asked about more information about how to get involved with Piaba.
Sure. So you can check us out.
Oh, no, go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's okay. We have a YouTube channel, a Facebook page, an Instagram account, and a website, projectpiaba.org. There's, you can always donate to get involved. We're also always hunting for volunteers. Again, we're a completely volunteer-based organization. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. And so we do, we kind of run around putting out whatever fire exists for the aquarium fishery. So right now we're doing a lot of best handling practices training. We're doing a lot of working with importers and exporters, and a lot of interfacing with hobbyists, with people who keep aquarium fish. Because again, like I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if he was on at the beginning of the stream, but it's a perception problem as much as it's any other kind of problem, because a lot of people hear wild caught fish and assume that it's bad for the environment. But in this case, it's a proven driver of environmental conservation because of the economic benefits that it provides to having a conserved and healthy environmental ecosystem. And so, a lot of it is perception. So being an aquarium keeper and realizing that your aquarium is a connection between you and the environment, and your aquarium is a way that you can, because everyone hears like environmentalists and is like, oh yeah, that means like turning the lights out when you're not in the room, or not running your TV, or like save water and save electricity and stuff. But it's also every choice that you make every single day as a consumer. And if you're choosing fish that help protect the environment, you're choosing something that's environmentally friendly. And you can, a lot of these species are available. Like we're talking about cardinal tetras, rummy nose tetras, marbled hatchet fish, pencilfish. There's like several different species of pencilfish, fish that are available from so many different sources, but only the wild caught ones are providing that economic input to these biologically important areas in the Amazon. So it's really all about your personal choice as a consumer, but also using your economic power, like your purchasing power, to sort of drive the market. So the biggest thing that people can do is care, and care about where your fish are coming from, and to choose choices that live your, you make economic choices that live your values, really. So, if you can buy a fish, if you're going to go buy a fish, buy one that supports what you want.
Yeah.
2 years ago, Brazil changed a law that was a whitelist law.
Yes.
In which they limited the number and the number of species that were permitted to be exported. As a result, the local Piabas, the collectors, never collected a whole variety of fish that were illegal to export and for which there was no economic market.
That's true.
Now, with that having been abandoned because it was so fundamentally flawed, note, and that opens the door now to a whole species, a whole variety of species of animals that are available for export. COVID has put a hamstring on that, but that's up. If we're able to avoid this aberration, this stupid law, that market will open up, and we suddenly will find a wide variety of fishes. For example, apistogrammas. There are dozens of species of pistogrammas that are not available at the trade, that are easily caught in these local environments. That's a fish we'll be able to have and share.
Yeah, exactly. And it's more than that too. There's a number of species of fish that look exactly like another species of fish that even ones that were on the list were, people were afraid to catch them because they looked enough like something that wasn't on the list, and the people who were inspecting them didn't necessarily know. And so people were afraid of getting caught with a fish that wasn't illegal but looked like a fish that was illegal, and we're like, nope. So
do you have any knowledge of how they are developing their blacklists?
They so anything that is endangered or vulnerable is already on that list. And also there are things that are going to require more review. So things like stingrays, for example, a lot of the freshwater stingrays are CITES 3 listed, which means that there's a quota that they're not allowed to exceed, and there's also a size range that they're not allowed to export fish that are larger than any given size for that species, so that you're not exporting the large reproductive adults. They're only exporting the pups. So there's that, and it's also anything that hasn't been described is getting analyzed as part of this, right? A specimen is logged with their environmental organization.
Did I hear that it like takes 5 years to research like a specific species and, like you said, get it logged and all that stuff before they even consider it? Is that true?
It takes a long time, right?
Excuse me. Yeah, but at least 5 years. Yeah.
It would depend on the species and how much time the scientists have, and how many trips they've made to the place to collect specimens and stuff like that.
Gotcha.
But I can tell you that in 2020 we did a trip where we were anticipating this law change in Brazil. We knew that it was coming down the pipeline, and so we did a trip, and we were like, oh, let's just kind of video, like let's take lots of videos underwater and see what kinds of fish are there that the aquarium trade doesn't know about, because there are a lot. Like most of the videos that I have, there's this one species called Hemigramus analis that is in just about every video that I took. Like they're literally everywhere. And when you put them on YouTube, people go, what is that fish? I've never seen it before. Because they're exported. They don't exist in the aquarium fish trade, because in Brazil they just look like this stupid little minnow that why would anyone want that? But it's a bright,
like just a little plain little fish.
Yeah, it's a bright silver fish with a gold line through it and a bright red eye, and it's like you see it as an aquarium fish keeper and you're like, whoa. But you see it as a fisherman in a village and you're like, oh yeah, those are everywhere.
You're like, what's that? Yeah.
It's like grackles or starlings or something here, where it's like a bird that you see every day.
Right.
It's those little fish that count. It's those little fish that count.
Yeah. So there's been a lot of, lots of fish that the aquarium fish trade doesn't even know about. And it's funny because, like, as in the process of going through these videos, I have a lot of help from a couple of ichthyologists who, if I don't know what the fish is, I'll take a screenshot of it and send it to them. And there's been at least 3 that I've been like, I can't even guess what genus this fish is in. And all 3 of them ended up being an undescribed species of Munchausia that when I sent it to the ichthyologist, he sent it to another ichthyologist, and he was like, oh yeah, I'm in the process of describing this one. So it's, I don't know how many fish this guy has on his plate, but like it seems
a lot.
So it's a process, and it takes a lot of time, and it takes a lot of science to get a name on it.
Well, one of the things that's happened, I've been around this hobby long enough to see some fundamental changes, and one of the really exciting things that's been happening for the past 10 years or so is a continuous availability of new species that were never available before. And that's happened for a variety of reasons, primarily because they've been able to actually get the animals from the native environment to an exporter in a reasonable amount of time. You think about in the 1930s, when the first angelfish were brought into this country, they came in by ship to New York City. They were on that ship for a month or more. The first 2 that came in sold for thousands of dollars each.
Yep.
Within 10 years, enough of them had been brought in and bred in captivity that the price dropped to virtually what it is today. Prices have gone up much for fish since I've been alive.
Yeah, unless it's a weird fish.
Yeah, exactly. But that's been true of every single fish. Every single item at some point was rare and unusual.
Yeah.
Guppies were rare and unusual when they were first introduced and very, very pricey. And it's been the efforts of the farmers, the hobbyists, the industrialists, everybody who's been involved in breeding and raising these species that has made them not just available, but ensured their continued existence.
Right.
Michigan Tropicals, thank you
Yes.
for the $5 super chat.
Thank you so much.
Talking
Who else
about
gave you a super chat?
Roll 12G's new video of a
That's
new
a good one.
species of tetra. Haven't seen that. Can you post the link?
Hey, Scouse. There's the Scouse caper just came in.
Hey, Scouse. Nice to see you.
That is Dubes. How are you doing, my friend? And so glad you're here, Michigan Tropicals.
Yes, indeed. We were
It's such a
supposed
great
to catch
group.
up.
Oh, and Mad Cypress. Hello.
Yeah, we
Sorry.
were supposed to catch up at Aquashella, and I never made it.
Oh.
So, we were going to do some collecting, and I am the guilty party in that. I couldn't get over there, and we couldn't get to do it.
I have to go collecting with Father Fish one time in my lifetime. Please, I need crowdfunding to send me and Father Fish to Peru.
Really?
Together.
Really.
He's like, I don't know if I can go with Mary Paige. I can take her on camera, but that's about it. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm sure.
Well, they Dr. Anthony was talking about a contest they're holding.
Yes. How about that?
Free trip. That's exciting. I told him if
It
I
is
win,
exciting.
I'm going to have to give it to somebody because I don't have a COVID shot.
I don't either. So
I've been advised not to take the COVID shot.
Me
because
too.
I've got
Right.
so many comorbidities. So I wouldn't be able to go. And it's not just an airline law or regulation. It's
going from country to country.
Federal law in Peru.
I wouldn't go to South America without that.
Right.
Now you were saying that that COVID has hit Brazil pretty hard.
Yeah, it hit Brazil hard and it hit Brazil early. So and particularly in the Amazon, where there's a lot less, like there's not road access. So anything that comes in either comes by air or by boat. So at one point it was really hard to get medical supplies and particularly oxygen tanks to the interior parts of the Amazon. And so there were I kept receiving, text messages from my friends down there that they were like, donating the oxygen making equipment from the export facilities for tropical fish to be medical, to use to save people's lives, because there wasn't, the entire state of Amazonas was out of oxygen and there was no way to get more in. So it was pretty dire for a while. And I think it's improved a lot. And we're actually talking about scheduling a trip to go down soon. Usually Project Piaba goes down once a year, just to meet with people in villages to check things out and to see what needs to be done to protect the fishery. And we haven't been since 2020. And it was kind of crazy because we were in the Amazon when the news for COVID started to break. And it was, we were just on a boat, like in the middle of nowhere. And then when we came back into civilization, we came into Manaus and people started like acting really funny around us, because it was obvious there were several foreigners there, and they were like, "Do you have COVID?" And we're like, "Do we have what?
Yeah.
What are they talking about?"
Right.
And then one of the people on the trip had like some sort of alert on his phone and was like, "Hey, there's apparently some virus that's escaped from China.
Yeah.
Gonna kill us all." And we're like, "What?"
I know. And then you're like scared to death.
Yeah, it was kind of like, well, we've heard of bird flu before, and that really wasn't a big deal. Swine flu wasn't really a big deal. What do we care? And then we got back, and like I wasn't back in the United States for another week before it was like everything shutting down. And it was like, oh, okay, maybe it is a big deal. But it really impacted a lot of the villages. It made, people afraid to go, to travel to fish or to travel to get supplies. It really, really had a profound impact on the aquarium fish trade, because people didn't want to leave their villages, and people were getting sick and dying in the villages because they couldn't get to any place where there was medical attention.
Right.
So
Thank you, Crystal.
deal.
We just had another super chat.
Yeah, I'm
Thank
just
you
trying to
so
find it
much,
here.
Crystal. Yes,
There
for
it is.
$9.99 for the Peru trip. Right. Thank you so much, and thank you, Father Fish. Thank you for bringing Jackie on with us. This has been a total
Been
delight.
delightful. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Thank you, Jackie.
Yes,
I
I'm
feel
always,
honored that I get to be here. So thank you.
thanks for having me.
I get
All right,
a little
yeah.
fangirled sometimes when I meet like the big wigs, and I mean, I admit it, people know I do, but I do when I'm like talking to somebody that's like serious or like really important. I'm like, I just get a little fangirled. So that's just me.
Well, I'm a big wig. I feel like I'm sort of like the Jehovah's Witness of fish. Every person, I'm like, have you?
Really?
Oh, you are wonderful.
Really?
Wonderful. Oh, wonderful, Crystal. So she's about to set up a deep substrate, and she's been learning so much from your channel, Father Fish, for months. Thank you,
All right.
DPK, for dropping Jackie's link on the project Piaba. Piaba, I can't even talk. The first time I ever heard about it was on Tank Tested, and his name is Alex.
Yeah,
And yes, and he did a wonderful, and that was the first time. That's been what, a year, maybe 2 years ago. I can't even remember. It's been a while back. That was the first time I'd ever talked about it or heard somebody talk about it, and it was just like incredible. So I've been interested and want to do whatever I can, if I can, since then. So I think it's just incredible that you're here with us. So I'll be quiet now.
Well, thank you so much for having me. I really am. I'm very happy to talk about this with anybody, anytime.
I'm sure of it. Listen, before we go, you need to tell us about your pigeon.
Oh my goodness!
Yes,
That we have been hearing cooing in the background.
we need to hear that. Yes.
He's hooting his brains out. He's imagine having a Chihuahua that could fly.
Oh my gosh, I can imagine that. I have 4 Chihuahuas.
He tries to rip the shoelaces out of my shoes to like put.
Oh, I love it.
He tries to do dirty things to my shoes because they're like,
not the dirty things.
He has a sock that he likes to drag around the house. Like I said, the pet industry is
a flying Chihuahua. You got it. You nailed it right there. A flying Chihuahua.
Several $1 billion worth of pet toys in the world. And he has a sock.
Right. I love it. That is so funny. And you know what? My dogs have not barked one time during this stream. If anybody knows, they always bark. So they must have known. I was like, y'all better be on your best behavior.
J.R. Patter. Is that John Patterson?
I don't know, but I just saw him come in. Hello, J.R. Patter.
A few times in Peru.
Right?
Yeah. John is going to be speaking at our club. He's leaving. You're on a cruise this week. He's going to be speaking at our club next month.
Awesome.
In April.
Good.
Probably we'll be talking about a collecting trip. He does a lot of collecting. I've been out collecting with him. He's a wild man. And we were out. Collecting. Yeah, we were out collecting. I've got a picture somewhere. At what's called Big Pass, which is a mile-wide pass opening into the Gulf. We were in chest-high water in a torrential rain.
Oh, wow.
Oh, my goodness.
With these big vat nets, catching all kinds of little stuff. It was great.
That's so cool.
That sounds like
fun. He said, "That's him, Father Fish." He said, "Yes, Lou, it's me.
Right.
It's John."
I figured as much. Right. Me too.
Oh, what a
Michigan.
delight. What a delight. Trying to make sure. If I missed any questions, I tried to, but everybody was pretty much, I think, just enjoying listening to Jackie and you talk. And I don't know what I threw in there, but I was there just watching and fanning out. No, I'm just kidding. But it was a great, I mean, just absolutely wonderful and so much information. Thank you so much. And
Thanks
thank
for
you for all the super chatters. I know we had, let's see, we had Crystal, and I think Michigan Tropicals gave a super chat, and there was somebody else. Hold on, I'm trying not to.
I saw the two.
I know I said thank you to him, but I don't know if I can go back far enough to see. Did I say hey to Drift and Driftwood? Just in case I didn't. Hello.
Yeah, there's the shrimp.
And Aqua Balls. Hey, George.
Oh, Aqua Balls is here. Hey.
Yes.
Yeah, Driftwood is a shrimper. He does
It's a shrimper
caridina and neocaridina. Yeah, he's got a
Love
big
me some shrimps.
big shrimp, and he has a channel on our Discord server.
Yes. Oh, let me drop your Discord link too, because what do you have going on tonight there? Do you have anything happening? Usually there's a live stream.
We'll probably do a live chat.
Okay.
I'm sure we will.
Now, Jackie, do we have any other links that we need to drop for you? Do you have, like, yourself personally have a YouTube channel or anything? We've got the Project Piaba.
Yeah, Project Piaba has one, and that's really the best one to see, like, all of the
okay.
So since the 2020 trip, we've dropped a lot of like habitat videos. And one thing that I've learned is that the Biotope Aquarium crowd is really energized right now, and so we have a lot of videos of wild fish in wild.
Oh, that's
habitat.
cool.
If you're seeking inspiration for your Biotope aquariums, there's a lot of just wild fish.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
so
that work has been really helpful to us in teaching the food web.
Yeah, and there's a lot of so that's where if you want to see Hemigrammus analis, just literally any video has them.
Okay.
And lots of like leaf litter stuff, because that it's a unique habitat that these fish come from in the flooded forest, where there's like about just ankle deep water, but ankle deep or knee deep leaf litter too, and it's just so much biological material for these fish. They're feeding on it, they're living in it, they're just existing in it, and it profoundly impacts the habitat in terms of water chemistry as well. So if you're trying to replicate that in your aquarium tank, it's really cool.
Good,
oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We're doing it. Jackie, thank you so much.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
Having you. Good.
What a pleasure.
A we will get together more.
Yeah, for sure.
On Sundays when I'm here. I'm just kidding.
Right. So good night, everybody.
Right.
Delighted to be here in HB. Nice to have you all. Let's see if I can get a little tune back up here. Maybe we'll go off with some.
Yes, and everybody in the chat, thank you for all the comments and all the likes. Thank you, guys. If you didn't hit the like, make sure you hit it on the way out. Hello, Knee Deep, or wait a minute. He said Knee Deep. Press Alpha. Hello, how are you? Get you before we get out of here. All right, I'm being quiet now. Play that tune.
I'm getting it. Here we go.
Getting it. Love you guys. Jackie, now I love you. I'm just like that. Sorry.
Can you hear that?
Let's see. Not yet.
I hear.
There we go.
You can hear the music? Okay.
There we go. Bye, everyone.
All right. Love you all. There's a time that I remember, I did not know the pain. When I believe in forever, everything will stay the same. Now my hope can represent from somebody say your name.
I can't reach out to call you. But one day, yeah. Everybody hurts sometimes. Everybody hurts someday. Yeah, yeah. Everything gon' be alright. Only the best will say. Here's to the one that we got. Here's to the wish you were here.